Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 6 of the world premiere Howard Stern Superfan podcast, Proper Modulation.
Hey now.
With your hosts, Kurimanju, hey now, and a man whose own limbs seem to be sadomasochistic, Cheapy D.
Hey now.
I'm not going to talk. I'm just going to use the Hey Now sample for their whole show. I lasted all of 10 seconds without using the Hey Now sample. 10 seconds. It goes too well. It goes too well. It went perfectly with your intro. How am I not going to launch Hey Now when you do stuff like that?
Well, see, my thing is, I like to say it. I've been saying it for like freaking 30 odd, at least 27 years. I've been saying "Hey now" mostly to myself because no one would get the references. They wouldn't even know Gary Shamblin. You know what I mean? Like no one would get the references. And then now I get to say it, and I'm not looked at or shunned by society. I feel liberated.
Only here, you're saying, at 3:00 on Fridays, you can say it.
Hey now.
Into a big microphone. It makes it even better.
Yes, it does. How was your week, man?
I don't know. Every week is the same. Honestly, like every week is the same. So it's the exact same as it was last week. Nothing changed. I went to Orange Theory twice, during the week. I went to play ping pong once, and the rest of the time was sitting around here. I got a lot of new equipment, streaming equipment. So all my free time was actually taken up by putting together the streaming equipment and figuring out how to get this whole shit going. We're going to be able to take calls today if anybody's
excited about that.
If people are interested. I've got it going like really well, I think. So I'm excited if anybody actually wants to do that. If you just type in call in the chat, you can it'll lead you through that. But that's
the chat on the Twitch.
Yeah, and that's pretty much what's been going on here. Just being nerdy with technology, which is my wheelhouse.
Well, it's a good way to pass the lockdown time. Before we get to me, you got to give our audio file, and the Twitchers who are watching are probably, aspiring streamers themselves. Just give them a little bit of a tech up. What are you happiest about in the tech update that you got?
So I got this device called the Go XLR. This is okay.
It's an XLR. It's an XLR. The Camaro's a piece of shit. That's what I said.
I'm glad you didn't.
A piece of shit.
I'm glad you didn't know the name of this thing before we started the show. It's called the
XLR. I can't get off it.
It basically, it's a Go, and it says Go XLR right on it, and it's just for streamers, and it lets you route the audio on your computer to physical mixer sliders that you would see like in a broadcast studio, and basically what you hear in your headphones is what the audience is hearing on stream. So it's really great, but there's a learning curve to it, and also they're impossible to buy right now because everyone is just finding out how great these things are, and there's a shortage of certain components because of COVID.
Right.
But I've been looking on eBay for one of these things like for a week, and basically just like every couple hours just check in, and I found somebody who's foolish enough to sell this thing for way less than it's actually worth. And even though it was used, it still had the plastic on it. It was, when you get the box with like the logo cut out, it means something sketchy happened, but you're going to benefit. And I benefited so much.
Oh man. So is that like a deal they can find at, on the,
no, only me found it. There was one deal and I found it and you didn't get it.
There's only one Cheapy Dizzle.
I was dedicated to getting this thing and hopefully getting it at a discount, and I did, and I'm very happy about it.
Congratulations, my friend. Before we go, we're going to get to the Stern stuff soon. And
There's no rush. There's no rush.
Well, I'm excited to do the calls, but I just wanted to go through some of the stuff from the week because I thought it was a good week to recap. But I wanted to ask about your headphones. They look different. Are those new as well?
My headphones are new because this mixer doesn't use the normal headphones that I use. The connection.
Do you like the Matrix? Do they plug it in?
Hold on. People are saying your levels are a little low, so I will adjust
My
that.
levels or yours?
Your levels, but I will fix that. That is
Sounds
something.
good.
That is something I will fix. Only I fix levels.
There's only
Curry
one
Manju. Only
GP
me.
Dizzle.
Only I fix levels. No one else.
I just bring the ruckus to all you stern loving motherfuckers.
So yeah, there's actually different kinds of headphone connectors. It's very boring, but if you have a headphone, this thing is so serious. If you have a headphone that has a microphone attached, like earbuds, like you're using, it's not going to work. So I have to use these. So with the last thing I want to do with this egghead is to wear these cans. But it was a last minute thing. I figured out that my normal headphones I was only getting like one channel, and I said, you know what? I already look like a big dork anyway. It doesn't really matter if I look like an air traffic controller or a big dork. So that's where we are with the headphones and my egg-shaped head.
Very exciting. I feel like we need to give like Reddit something to be angry about. So we gave them that. They'll be pissed that we talked about tech. And now the fun begins.
Hey, what is the fun?
Oh, my week. I got internet back. It was only like 5 days. Seriously, 5 days. And they had to fix it for 2 different days. It was just a squirrel eating the wire around the block at one of the connectors. A squirrel eating what he says, a cat-sized squirrel that was eating the wire at one of the connectors. And it's like, okay, fine. Internet's back. I'll stop complaining. My life regained vibrance. And the noise came back a little bit. But it made it a lot easier to enjoy the show, because I'm not like chained to my phone anymore. I could put it through the speakers in the house.
Professional.
You know, it was just a pain in the butt where you're like sitting there and you're like trying to hear the show, and you got to have it like I'm brushing my teeth and I got to put it high enough. Now I'm afraid I'm going to break the phone again.
That would be, honestly, listening to Howard would be the least of my problems if I had no internet for 5 days. I mean, that's how I watch everything.
What? Howard would mean nothing. That would be the least of you. You're a jabroni.
I could get in my
That's
car.
obvious.
My
You're
car. I can listen to my car. I can't do the internet in my car.
All right.
I didn't pay extra for the car internet.
I was about to resign.
No, I mean I can listen to a lot in the car. I'm not going to be like Bobo and sit in my driveway or anything, but I do go places like to play ping pong, and I listen then. That's all.
Oh, Bobo. Bobo's calls this week. I think we had a mixed bag.
Are we going right to Bobo's calls? I don't even.
Not. No.
Okay, you're giving a tease.
Give you a tease, a deep tease.
One thing that we did learn before we get into this week's show is that I guess Howard's going to be off next week because they teased this Wacka Doodle. Is that what it's called? No, Wackipedia. Even Howard couldn't remember it. And Howard's hosting it himself, which is rare. You don't really get a Howard Stern special hosted by the man himself. It's usually like third tier.
Right. But I like it that way because then he complains about it, and he's like very self-conscious when he fucks up on the radio shows, or like when he has someone call in, he's like, "This is how you hit the post," and he fucks up the post 3 times when he's doing like the lead in, like with the WWCCC,
Right.
whatever, the weather, blah blah blah. I like it when he has like somebody else do it, and like JD do it, or Ronnie. You should have Ronnie do it, honestly. Although Ronnie needs he needs to get from like a C- to a straight C on doing any bit, and then I think he'd be good enough to do a bit that they can take apart and make fun of. But right now he's like Eric the actor, but worse. It's so bad it's like they can't even make money off of it. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, what am I going to do with this? It's just shit. Flush it.
We can't even play it. It's just bad enough. It's just bad enough that they can play it. Is basically where they're at.
Can we jump to the Rambo joke? I mean, the Rambo phone call.
Sure.
Briefly, because this is just on my mind.
Yeah.
We're a little free today. So, like, so he has the Rambo voice. It's worse than Eric's Ethel Mertz, which sounds just like me, not changing my voice.
Right. It's Ronnie's normal voice, but a little slower, I think.
And then he starts off and he gives out on it like
and softer.
in 2 seconds. But he gives up on the impression in 2 seconds.
Right. Oh, he did a Barry White. It was supposed to be a Barry White impression.
Yeah, it was Barry White. Okay.
For one line.
Me and my lady, yeah. Oh, yeah. And it's like, what? It was terrible. It sounded like medicated Pete, but worse, because he doesn't have Tourette's. You don't even have that layer.
Yeah.
In a polite and respectful way.
But I think there's always comedy in people trying to make comedy and failing. Certainly.
Yes, there is. Well, that certainly is one of the layers of umami in this show.
Definitely. Definitely. I mean, just failing in general is a deep layer. Just
we,
before
we need
I was saying, just before we did the show today, I was showing Ty the video of Gary getting picked on for pronouncing Reese's Reese's Pieces, and I just felt you feel so bad. I mean, at this point, like back in the day, I used to think it was hilarious, but now as an old man, I look at that and like you can see like the life force draining from his face when like, you know, Howard's still talking about it and they have the camera on Gary in his office, and you just see like his face is like, yep, like I'm just like, I have to have humility because I have no choice. This is my job, basically, is to be made fun of on the air, and it can happen.
I'm the clown.
I'm the clown. It can happen. It cannot happen at all for like a week or two, or it could happen every day for an hour. It could just be anything. And I was thinking that Gary is really, Baba Booey is like one of the greatest heroes of the show because.
Oh yeah, Baba Booey is the spine. I mean, I think he's the exoskeleton. He's the endoskeleton of the show. You know, I mean, from being Boy Gary in the beginning, which with light guest days, you know, light guest days, being show fodder. I don't want to say just fodder because I mean he's part of the show. He was a large contributor, so and as well as producer. So it's not like he was blindsided by this stuff. He knows the formula. That's why he was a good sport about it because he knew it was good show content. But at the same time, from being the basics, then going to be the person who gets the guests, right? He's the person who gets those people to make the show even more interesting, then to being the person who runs Stuttering John and lets Stuttering John treat him like a shithead. So increasing that back office drama.
Sure.
So Gary, if you think he's like a progenitor for a lot of these different aspects of the show that we love now, and personally, I think he should be like a chief executive type of position, at least in what he makes. Because
I think he is.
Gary, it's like 30% of content that we go back to that everyone knew. Baba Booey, what kind of promotion has Baba Booey been over the years?
It's been amazing, but I think he has been pretty well compensated for his.
Yes, that's true. That's true. But I want him to have his own office. I don't like Jason getting over on him without him having an office. Like when I hear about his knees, and I hear about the father-in-law with the COVID, and I feel bad for Gary because the medical stuff. You know, that stuff, it's just painful. It's just tough, that kind of recovery.
It's
and
all
I want
painful.
Gary to have an office.
Right. It all seems to be painful.
Really all it is.
Gary's whole existence on the show is basically painful because you're watching him either being embarrassed or what? Like it's pretty much most of his on-air time is due to him being embarrassed.
Yeah.
Pretty much at his expense. Or
he fucks up though. I like I was like, man, I feel bad for you, Gary. And then Gary will come on and he'll be like, boss, I got no, even better. I don't want to bust your bubble, boss.
But they keep playing his fuck ups. They were playing his fuck ups. They were playing his fuck ups this weekend. Like he counted the number of shows wrong and they had to do extra shows or something. There was a lot. There was just, so that's like, it never ends.
Madonna's sister, remember that one? And it was just a prank call.
Let's put it this way. It's his 60th birthday coming up. So they're gearing up for like his 60th, big 60th celebration. And it consists of him screwing up and people making fun of him. And you know what? It's hilarious.
The pitch. I mean, is there anything in show history that beats out the pitch?
We watched it.
Is that your top 10? And
yeah, it was pretty great.
People who are with us on the Twitch, either comment or call in if you feel up to it. If you have an idea of like what's your top 10 favorite show moment that like outstands everything. But I think Baba Booey with the pitch, the lead up to the pitch, then Artie being at the pitch. That rock star, what's the rock star's name with the long hair, like a hair rock star? I forget his name, but he was there at the pitch, and he's like, hey Gary, thanks for talking about my cock. He talked about
who. I don't remember who that was.
I forget his name. Somebody will remember. But they like over the years they talk about how long this man was in the Johnson, and he just thanks Gary for all the years, and then Gary goes up and just completely shits the bed.
Oh, is that what? Oh, right. That's what happened right before he pitched.
And then the next day, Artie is about to die. They
Right.
might have to give him like a.
I know. I just listened to that right up, and I played it for my son. And my son my son is very empathetic, like really, like a little, like even more empathetic than I am.
Oh yeah.
So he feels really bad. Like he's like, I feel so bad for Gary because they cut away and they show his face while he's at the computer, while he's typing with his two fingers. He's hunting and pecking, but then his face is like, it's just like all the life is drained out of his face, and he knows that this isn't going away for a long time.
Ever. It's just the next thing. Which is why Ronbo, and actually after this, why don't you take us to where you want to go? But which is why I think Ronbo was so apprehensive about apples, because Ronbo just sees a trail of misery. Everything, every twitch, every slip up is somebody calling it in, like down to the snitch in the organization about Ronnie with interns at Rick's Cabaret.
Yeah.
And that was a call in, that was an email to the show. So Ronnie's just super apprehensive about people outside of the show screwing up his life, because he kind of, if you want to think about it, he's kind of at a Ralph level, but maybe even farther out. He is a limo driver who's developed a really strong relationship with Howard, and it's grown into a beautiful life for him. But he remembers where he came from, I feel, and he knows he's not doing a bit. He's not doing a show. He's not contributing the same way other people are who get the same airtime, or even less.
I don't know that he actually does think that way. I feel like he thinks like he is just as good as like Sal or Richard, and that he could.
Oh, that's why he's so sensitive. If he felt that way, he'd be less sensitive.
No, but don't you? He said that though. He's literally said that before after he recorded that horrible phone call, and he's like, oh, Sal should be worried about his job, and he said he was joking, but Ronnie doesn't make jokes. His jokes is just screaming 69 or let's fuck some whores. He doesn't really come up with like wives. He's not coming up with jokes, I don't think. So I disagree.
Let's fuck some whores.
Ronnie feels like he is in the inner circle of the show and that he is a part of the show, and that's why he gets so mad when Apples calls in and gets airtime, or anybody calls in and says that they're part of the show, because only Ronnie is part of the show, and another elite few people.
I don't know. Is there anybody who wants to come in and break this 1-to-1 tiebreaker? I think that Ronnie behaves based on how his true feelings are, but I think they are a mystery to him. I don't think he'll ever speak his true feelings in a conscious way.
That is probably correct. That I'll agree with you.
Hey now.
He needs therapy.
So what are we going? Go ahead.
Let's we'll talk about the week's show.
Okay. The
week of shows. The last new week of shows for at least a week.
It's like a week on Venus. It's 3 days.
Howard right. Howard started the show off, the week off, talking about the Golden Globe Awards and right. TV. But I don't personally, I don't care. I never watch. Do you watch award shows at all, ever?
No. I mean, I try to, because there are movies that I like and I want to hear the actor, but I usually would get it from the show. Like, I never, ever watched them. I would always listen to the show the next day, and they would kind of recap it. And they had a great way of making the actor's speeches look as vapid as humanly possible. And I was never attracted to watching it. It just seems like just terrible.
It's long and boring.
It's long and boring at best. A bunch of people patting themselves on the back for their own work. So it's kind of incestuous in my mind.
Right. I mean, I skipped past all that. I didn't listen to Howard talk about any of that stuff.
Especially since they stopped having Chris Rock as the host or something. When they had good comedy that was edgy,
sure,
which way they're going to go, that was definitely worth tuning in, depending on who the comic was.
Sure, and Howard would play clips, so you wouldn't even have to listen to the show. It's just all the good parts are right there. So why sit there for 3 hours through all the commercials and everything?
Right, exactly.
Michael Rappaport called in early in the morning and immediately started to just stir up shit with Gary. Speaking of Gary, right away, he's just like, hey, Howard, you remember when Gary rained on your parade when you were announcing you re-signed with Sirius? And then Gary said, not everybody's so happy, boss.
Not everybody's so happy, boss.
And then Howard, do you think when Howard pretends that he doesn't, when Howard says he doesn't remember, do you think he really doesn't remember or he's pretending?
doesn't remember what. Well, oh, he was trying to start it up again. I think Howard. It's both. I think it's both. Like, I don't remember. I mean, like we were talking about before. I've done live before. That's what I started out doing, live performances. Most of the time, I would not remember what I said on stage from
Okay.
singing or hosting or doing whatever.
Sure.
Because if you just wing it and you're just going. But I think it's an easy cop out because he's also said he doesn't like to be boff. So it's easier for him to defer that responsibility on other people. And he knows how the show is. He doesn't want to create a crescendo on Gary over that thing. He's kind of moved on about it. And I think he was using it more for show fodder than he really cared at the time.
Right.
So it could become its kind of faux thing, like Apples and Ronnie with the cereal. He knows how far things will go, and he makes a decision. Am I going to go in this direction, or am I going to go in another direction? So I think like with callers, he gives you a chance to sound good. And Rappaport's a caller. I think he gave him a chance to, like, I don't remember. And there's new listeners. You can't just act as if everybody's been listening as astutely. You gotta give people a chance to remember.
Are there new listeners? I mean, this might be. I mean, yeah, there's got to be a couple, but
they don't. The bar is lower. You're thinking outside of Sirius XM. Think about inside of Sirius XM. There's a world of people who never listened to Howard Stern. That's a.
And you think they're jumping
bubble.
in? You think they're jumping in now? Like
they've already paid for it. It's a very low bar of entry. So yeah, I think.
But you got to pay. You actually specifically pay for Howard if you want to get Howard.
So I guess I wanted to get Howard so bad I didn't really look at it. I just paid whatever they said.
I'm sure you did. I did the same thing. By the way, if you
pay separately for Howard Stern?
No, there's a package. You have to buy the package that includes Howard.
But it includes other things. It's not specific to just him, right?
Yeah, but it's for the most. I think. I don't know. I don't know.
Probably.
I think it's time to call in and say you're going to cancel because then they give you a good deal when you. It's true.
That's a good idea. I think I will.
Yeah, I don't know. The Michael Rappaport call was I don't know. It didn't do anything for me particularly. Then the
crowbar alert, man. Crowbar. He's trying. He's trying to do what Apples is trying to do, but he's just less artful because he's too canned. He's too practiced. He's too polished.
He's an actor.
His tirades are really well worded, but it's faux outrage. He doesn't care that much.
Because he's an actor and you can't trust actors.
Good ones, you don't know they're acting.
Right. That makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. It was just really an excuse to bring up that Gary was turning 60 and to bust his balls and play clips from his audiobook and make fun of the audiobook and all that stuff. Like 60. Go ahead.
Do you think that he's doing that? That Gary, forget about Howard. Gary. This is actually something I wanted to add to this. Do you think that he's doing that because that Gary is happy that it's happening because it's promotion for the book? Do you think it's 50-50? Because it's like another raking over the coals and public humiliation?
It's at least when they make fun of Gary's book, there's a chance that he could sell some books. When they make fun of Gary's pitch or the way that he says Reese's or McKine, there's no money coming. He's not selling anything. There's no money coming in. There's no upside other than the fans laughed at my expense, which is that's an upside, I guess.
They listen up to the commercial. That's what happens. They don't tune out yet.
Right. I mean, look, again, Gary is a hero for putting up with so many years of abuse. When you realize that he's turning 60, it just drives home the point that he's been taking this abuse forever, and we've been laughing at it and having a great time at his expense.
Right.
There was some more TV talk, and I don't even know what they talked. Is there anything that struck your fancy for the rest of Monday's show? I don't remember actually him talking about the CIA or anything like that.
Not really. I mean,
he took some calls. Probably he took a lot of calls.
And it was a good day. It wasn't a bad day, but it wasn't anything that stood out to me.
Certainly. All right, let's move on to Tuesday. Howard started off the show again. We talked about this last week. Howard is really now these days in the age of quarantine, only talking about topics that he's really into. So, and he seems to not give a shit if the audience is into it or not. He'll talk about I Am Jazz, or in this case on Tuesday's show, he's again talking about how he watches guitar videos on YouTube. Now, he's not a dumb guy. He knows that.
No,
he's not. I mean, no matter what you say about Howard, he knows broadcasting. He's an intelligent man. He knows that most of his audience probably does not care about guitars or classic rock, but Howard does. And goddamn, he wants to talk about that, and he's going to try to make it interesting. That's what he's going to do, and he's just not deterred in any way. You know, unlike me, like there's a lot of things that I'd like to talk about, and I get hesitant because I feel like people would be bored. But Howard's like, fuck it. I want to talk about this guy named John 5 who nobody ever heard about before. I'm going to talk about it for a long time. I didn't. Yeah. Did you go and look up who John 5 is? Do you ever or do you just sort of tune out when he brings up the classic rock guitar stuff?
I tune out, and I'm like, when I'm working out, maybe I'll try to listen to it, or I'll be like, you know what? I'm going to skip this part. I'm not going, because I can't, some of the stuff I cannot sit through. And it's not about, I mean, it's just, I think I've always been more interested in the ensemble cast, the inner show drama, the bits, the whack pack of the show.
Sure.
And every once in a while, he'll get me interested in a new type of performer, celebrity, someone who's not been on my radar before. But it's just, some of this stuff is just not for me,
That's fine. I mean, what are you going to do?
You can't be for everybody. If you pander, then you kind of lose your focus. You can't pander.
When you're 67 years old, you only want to talk about what you want to talk about. Anyway, speaking about talking, we have our first caller ever.
Yeah.
Hold on. Let's bring...
Caller?
Shanafan, are you there? Uh-oh. He might be away from keyboard. We'll keep him in here. Oh, he's here. What's up, Shanafan? What's up, man?
What's going on, guys? I'm the first caller.
You are. Welcome to the show.
All right. Thank you for having me.
You got it, man.
So I figured for the first call, I did some research about Howard Stern. And
okay.
My only knowledge so far has been the movie Private Parts. Came out 1997. All right.
Yep.
I found out that Howard actually won an award for that movie.
Yes.
He won.
I know
Best
it.
Male
I know it.
Okay, sorry.
I know it. It was the Blockbuster Video Award for best newcomer, and it was the joke was that he was winning the award for best newcomer, and he was 40 something at the time, and also it was a Blockbuster award.
So here's my question for you guys. Good knowledge, or cheapy. Good knowledge.
Okay.
He was nominated for the Golden Raspberry Worst New Star. So he did not win that.
Okay.
Now, as an actor, is that bad? Where how you look at this? If you're an actor, if you're nominated for a Golden Raspberry, do you want to win it, or are you happy you didn't win it?
Good question. What do you think, Kareem Anju?
So for our audience, I believe the Golden Raspberry Awards are awards for the worst actors.
Right. Do you think Howard would want to win that, or probably not? He's got an ego for sure, and
he's got an ego, but he knows marketing. And the movie is get someone to be interested enough to maybe watch the trailer or to read a clip, or you're trying to drive them to buy a ticket. I'd say he'd be ambivalent, but he'd like the promotion, and then he'd complain about it on air. So it's like a double whammy. I think he'd be happy about it.
But he talked about his movie nonstop while he was making it, because it occupied his life, and that's what he talks about. So yeah,
great promotion for the movie, and it was content it was a double whammy.
I'd say for sure he would not want to win that.
Why not?
Because he's got a big ego. He wants to think he did a good job as an actor. I'm sure he was insulted that he was even nominated.
Do you think he thought he was a good actor? Shanafan, let me ask you. Do you think he was a good actor in the film?
Well, of course he was, because he was playing himself, right? So he's the best person to play Howard Stern in a movie about Howard Stern.
Maybe. Not necessarily.
Maybe an actor who knows how to emote.
It's hard to act. Don't you think it's hard to act? Oh, you're saying
character. This isn't me. So
wait, you're saying he wasn't a good actor? He was fun. He was okay. No, I haven't watched it in a long time.
I'm saying, listen, the movie got what it did because he had all day to promote the movie, and he's got a built-in cult following. When we do the Cheapy Dizzle film, okay, because obviously he's finally got like a colored sidekick, so we can get some demos, cross-culture promotion demos in it.
Yeah, right.
Doesn't like the black-white sidekick movie, and it'll just be to about 7 people who are on the Discord right now, so they're going to see this same thing, but they're going to see it in the theater, and we're going to talk about it nonstop until it happens on every single podcast that you do.
It's not happening. None of these things are happening.
And it'll...
Okay,
so back to Howard
I'm
Stern.
shocked that you didn't think he was good in the movie.
I don't know if he was good or bad. I'll be honest with you. I never watched the movie.
What?
I never watched the
What?
movie.
What? You
Oh my
are a
God.
bigger fan than
Wait.
I am. How is this even possible? What?
Okay, so let me
You
put
have
on
to
my
watch the movie.
brain hat because obviously you two. What do you say, Shannon?
You have to watch the movie. It's a great movie, and for me, not listening to Stern in the first place, I love that movie because it's a good biography of his life up till 1997.
Well, the reason why I didn't, and listen, I will actually hearing that you are such a big fan of the show, and that's, I mean, of the movie, and that's your presentation of the Howard Stern show initially.
I'm
I'm
honestly
gonna
shocked.
check it out this
I am
weekend.
I am shocked. I can't
Well,
believe
listen.
it. I cannot believe it. How
Okay.
is that even possible? Is it because like the timing was weird? Like when the movie came out, like I know how old I am, but
Right.
like were you like I don't know, like you were over abroad in the army or something when the movie came out, and then you just never had an opportunity. I just don't understand how a guy who like literally has memorized every line ever spoken on the show didn't find time to watch the movie about the guy's life. I just don't. And the guy, and he talked about it nonstop for like a year. You weren't curious to hear what he was talking about, to see what he was talking about? That's crazy.
Okay. So yes, it is crazy. So here's what I'll say. Here's a moment with Kudi Manju. If you could cue the sad music.
Hold on, let me cue the sad music.
Oh,
Go ahead.
So I said last week, I think in episode 5, I shared that my older brother introduced me to Howard Stern initially, my brother Wayne. And Wayne, who's my late brother, he passed away a good, I want to say 14 years ago. He introduced me to the show. He also was an extra in the film. And I remember being a kid, like the younger kid, I was like about 5 years younger than Wayne. And I remember seeing the props that he, like the costume that he had for the show. He must have been in some type of 1970s part because he had like bell bottoms and he had a gigantic.
It's Howard and
afro wig.
Roosevelt. Howard and Roosevelt, or Howard in college, probably at Boston University, perhaps.
Right. So my brother Wayne always being my hero, I didn't want to watch the film because he got cut out of the movie, so it was no interest in watching it any longer.
Oh wait, he got cut out of the movie.
Yeah.
Okay, this is crazy. I'm still. I thought where you were going, and I was about to feel like a complete asshole because
Right.
you were going to say my late brother is in the movie, and it would just crush me to watch the movie, to see him there, and knowing that he's not with us anymore. I just can't bring myself to watch it. I thought for sure that's where you were going.
Well, he got an autographed copy of the book. He told me I should watch the movie. Fast forward, my brother committed suicide, and it just was too much of a painful memory for me to revisit. So I didn't want to watch the movie afterwards once I got older. So now it's kind of was stuck in that box of something I don't want to go back to because there's too many memories. But now Shanafan has brought me out of my corner, and I will watch the movie
Wow.
this weekend.
This show has taken an emotional turn,
I told you.
an unexpected emotional turn.
well,
Yeah,
two
but
things.
you know what? It's not a. Go ahead.
I apologize. Number one, sorry about your brother. No, it's a terrible thing to go through.
Appreciate it.
And number two, it's $3 to rent on Amazon this weekend.
Is it on sale?
$3 to rent, a $3 rental.
That's cool.
Shanafan, you're the man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and Robin and Fred is also in the movie as themselves.
He knows everything about it because Howard literally talked about it every day for a year. Like,
Right.
and because that's what he was doing. He would leave, he would do the radio show, and then he would just leave to go do the movie. And then next day he would do the radio show and talk about the day before.
But see, as a super fan, I'm a super fan of the show, not of Howard Stern. So for me, that wasn't the show. It didn't qualify. And since I got every single moment by moment in front of the camera and after the camera from Howard, from the show, I never felt the need to, except to see my brother. Then he wasn't in it. Then it was like, why watch it? And then it became more of a complex memory, unfortunately.
Right.
And then it's like, I don't want to go back to that. I want to watch a comedy and cry.
Right. Right.
But now it's got a new meaning. It's our first caller.
Yes. And I'm glad I could go full circle for like not feeling like a jerk,
Yeah.
feeling like a jerk, not feeling like a jerk, feeling like a jerk. It was like it was a real journey. It was an awesome journey.
That's the nature of our
Excellent.
friendship, people. If you guys don't know, they used
Yeah.
to try to make him feel like a jerk at one point. If I
Yes. Everyone seems to do that with me. All right, Shanafan, thanks for calling, man.
Thank you for the call.
Hey, no problem. Thanks for having me, guys.
We know the system works now. Thank you so
All
much.
right.
Later,
Yeah,
dude.
good luck.
Later.
And what's the next item, please?
The next item, please, is an item. It's also an item. All right, let's move on. Let's move on to Tuesday. Oh, we're on Tuesday already. We talked about John 5 and how we didn't care about it. And then Howard went on to complaining about the ultimate first world problem. My first run exclusive movie delivery system is not delivering the movies before they come out properly so that I could talk about them. And so that's
How
something.
many times over the years are we gonna hear this BS, dude? Come on.
You think you just didn't want to watch it?
I just think he is a Luddite, and
When it comes to technology, you mean?
well, yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
it's just
yeah.
How many years have you were? It's been 20 plus years. Even on his freaking VHS, he couldn't work the VHS. Now, is it a bit? If it is, this is a terrible bit. Someone's got to just have a heart to heart and say, dude, it's just not as fun. It's not fun.
It's not a bit, I don't think, because he talks about how he pays all this money to have people. He pays people to manage his technology.
Pay me.
But he already does somebody. He's already paying somebody. But that
Hey,
person,
Grandpa, this is how it works. You plug into the power outlet and then you hit on.
yeah. It is weird.
I mean, watch the freaking movie. You get the latest Eddie Murphy movie.
He couldn't watch it. No, he didn't. He couldn't watch it. Didn't work.
Do
Yeah.
you believe that it says? Oh, well, you're a technophile, so it's maybe not a fair question.
I believe that both things can be true. That he is a Luddite when it comes to technology, and also that the Pix thing didn't work for him. Yeah.
Okay.
It could be true, for sure. He talked about.
Good interview though.
Oh yeah, we're gonna get there.
Okay.
He talked about. He played a bunch of clips again, more clips of news broadcasters saying erection instead of insurrection when talking about the January 6th Capitol riots, which is, it is funny to hear professional broadcasters say erection when they are not supposed to be saying it.
But isn't that hard? I mean, like I was thinking about it. I mean, like, listen, talking straight for a while, it becomes numb. Like I said, sometimes you just don't remember what you said at all. But so many of them saying erection directly. Do you think it's like it just speaks to a mass kind of blue balls?
Yes, absolutely. People are constantly thinking about sex, and it's always in the back of the mind. Yeah. It's not. It's just. I think we've learned that from psychology. Like modern psychology has shown that that's what people do. They think about sex even subconsciously.
But yeah, I mean, but anyways, it was
because it's women too.
Enough that it got me to. Well, some of them benefit from erections,
of course,
elections.
Sure.
But I think that it went long enough that it got me to laugh. But I had meant to bring it up as something that was just annoying, that wasn't funny enough to go on as long, because it's just annoying that society's where it is. But I guess you have to kind of bring it out anyway.
Also, we heard it last week too. I believe we heard a couple.
Yeah, and it's just like at this point they still are doing it. It's like, ugh, so annoying. But I guess he's clearing the computer too. I think he was clearing the computer.
Maybe boners are funny and all the time, basically. We went further and into the show. We talked about Howard talked about Lady Gaga's stolen dogs. Have you been following that story?
A little bit. I got a dog, as everybody knows. I think he came on episode 2, and I think I did. It just seemed. I mean, those types of the dogs that were stolen, they do have like a ton of inbred health problems. And they are super expensive at the same time, which is an interesting relationship.
My cousin has a one of those. Is it like an English
French bulldog or something?
My cousin has an English bulldog, I believe, and that thing just goes for your groin. Like you're sitting at the table, dinner time. He goes around under the table from groin to groin, and it's just like, and the dog. Everybody likes a dog. Like everyone loves dogs, right? But like. The groin, you can't go to the groin all the time, and so
you gotta teach the dog not to do that. You have to teach.
I know.
Otherwise, it's hard to stop. And what would also help GB is if you wash yourself. I mean, like if you took a shower, they go after stench.
So
okay. I don't want to bring it out. I know it's kind of put yourself out there.
So no joke, I was thinking about that.
Where's my face? Here's my palm.
There's no, I know you're making a joke, but I believe that to be the case. So
Stanky balls.
So knowing that, one time I went to a place where I knew the dog was going to be, and
I
not only
say one time you made sure to wash your undercarriage.
not only did I wash, but I sprayed Axe into my crotch directly before putting my clothes on, just to make sure like everything. It didn't matter. The dog was right there.
Question for you: did you use Shrinkterine?
No, I don't spray anything into my asshole.
You didn't get Shrinkterine when they were.
Do not put anything that has like alcohol in near or around your asshole. It's just bad advice. Don't take advice. Anything with "ine" in it is not going near my bunghole. Sorry.
I think it was crazy that walking a dog in America has become, for the uber wealthy, is now something where you need a flak jacket. That part of it I thought was pretty insane.
Well, the part where they play the recording that I guess it was all captured on
I wish
video.
He gave me a trigger alert. I would.
He did. I think. I think there was a trigger. Oh, I think there was. I didn't hear it either, but I saw somebody on Reddit talking about there was some sort of warning. But it
was painful, man. I had to turn it down. It's just. Oof.
But people on Reddit were laughing. Said they were laughing, but they did feel guilty about it.
Why were they laughing?
Because the guy had an effeminate voice, and he was like, "Oh, I'm being
so as
shy."
He was dying, he was screaming for his life.
Right. He was. Yeah.
If you were a woman, I guess they wouldn't care.
I guess I don't know. It wouldn't have been as funny.
It wasn't gender appropriate for them.
It wouldn't have been as funny. There's no joke there. It's just a person dying. Then it's not a person with a funny voice.
What am I gonna laugh at? Just he's dying. Where's the irony?
Well, they didn't die. I guess if the person
he's a dog walker, is that ironic enough for you?
I feel like if the person died, they wouldn't have thought it was funny. But since the person is okay,
I think Reddit would still laugh at it. I mean, I think this is slightly off topic. I had an epiphany. Okay.
Yes.
Howard is always complaining about how he can't reach these people. We always talk the not Reddit people, the political people on the other side of the spectrum.
Yes.
And he gets the calls. He gets angry too quickly. And we were talking about how we lamented that there's no dialogue, because you can't reach those other sides until you create a dialogue. So I've decided, because there are so many of our fellow super fans who have this love-hate relationship with Howard Stern, such that anything that is positive about Stern has to be negative.
Okay.
I will be the change in the world that I want to see.
Okay.
And instead of engaging them on that level, I will just bring the funny if I can, or just mention something that's interesting if I can, and see if we can get a positive conversation going about the show.
On Reddit? On Reddit you're talking about, or here?
I'm not going to try to change people's minds. I'm going to provide stuff for people who feel the same way we do about just having a laugh and not giving that much of a shit.
Right. I also, since you bring up Howard taking calls from, I guess you call them disgruntled listeners, most likely Trump supporters, currently Trump supporters, but generally speaking, disgruntled listeners. Mm-hmm. Howard has no patience for them whatsoever. And so when they call in, and granted, they may not be the best callers in terms of being entertaining to the audience, but Howard has literally no patience whatsoever for them. And as soon as he gets any inkling that that's who the person is, that type of person, he loses all patience and he goes on the attack. And personally, I don't think that's really super entertaining at this point. Back in the day, Howard, you just expect Howard to pick up the phone and be just like, "Fuck you," like, no patience.
Get off my phone.
But I feel like new Howard should be more engaging, and he's smart, and he's obviously a great communicator. If anybody could bridge the gap that you were talking about, you would think it would be him. But he just doesn't seem like he's got really any interest in doing that. He's just, as soon as he discovers that it's a Trump supporter or a disgruntled listener, no patience. It's just, I'm going to berate you, and because I think he feels there's no, it's just a disingenuous conversation coming on the other side of the phone.
Yeah.
And it's a waste of time. But I feel like it could be worth a try at least. And maybe it's more entertaining for the audience at this point, rather than just, if you hear the guys from Kentucky, you start playing the hillbilly music in the background.
To remind you, though, I will push back slightly.
Yep.
Wes from Kentucky, he didn't bring Kentucky up as a bad thing until he uncovered Wes as a troll. I'm going to make a connection for you. In the past, back during, what is it, Tipper Gore, and I don't know what pornography is until I see it, or I know it when I see it, which to me means I will know it when I see it, which is like pre-crime almost in terms of the prohibition they were trying to do regarding pornography rules, etc. And the FCC back in the day when he was fighting everything.
Mhm.
And back then there were organized campaigns of people creating faux outrage from the same political background, the more extreme part of the Republican Party or conservative parties, and they would organize to call into the show and complain about things that they'd never heard. They would get talking points sent to
Right.
them. And I think a lot of these current callers are similar. I don't think that they're different. I really don't. That side knows that a large part of Howard's audience comes from their constituency, and they're trying to use their constituency to kind of attack Howard to a degree. So
Sure.
when the person, obviously, when it's a paper thin call, and not paper thin like, oh, I want to tell you how great you are and how you changed my life. I think those are good for people to do because it means something to that caller. And it's got to be a two-way street with the caller and the show. They got to feel good about doing it. Otherwise, you're not going to get calls if you just berate them all the time. However, when they uncover themselves as paper thin, like, hey, I'm just waiting for you to say anything so I could say, what about Hillary? What about XYZ? What about Schwinkterine?
Right.
Then he's like, I prank. No one pranks. I prank. And
Right.
he
He
just
shuts them down.
puts the hammer down. Okay, you want me to put the hammer down?
Right. I think, yeah, and he just got to mix it up a little. He can't do the same thing all the time. It's not interesting. And
Engage them differently. Be the change in the world you want to see.
yes, exactly. Later in the show, by the way, yes, I did find the Lady Gaga tape, the audio of the guy getting shot, disturbing. I was like cringing while I was listening to it, but I did listen to it. And if he died, I would not have listened to it. But I knew that he was going to be okay.
Thank goodness. Good for him. I hope I hope this is a positive change. Has the end result of a positive change in his life, because you did not deserve to get shot anyway. But to walk dogs, and he protected the dog. He saved one dog he did not let go. And having a dog, you want someone to care about your dog the same way you do. And that guy sounds like an awesome dog walker.
I feel like Lady Gaga he's getting paid from Lady Gaga, right? Like,
I hope so, man. I mean, listen, that's workers' compensation, motherfucker.
She's got a lot of.
A motherfucking salary.
A living wage.
Listen,
motherfucker.
Hold on. Actually, before we go on, I wanted to say part of that be the change that you want to see in the world. I put up a poll on Reddit talking about which is the best Whack Packer show in bits, meaning what Whack Packer show was the most entertaining when Howard riffed on it the next day. And the options were, do you have it there? Can you see it? Not at all. Black on Black, Straight, which is King of All Blacks, and Big Black, a show that was on Sirius for maybe a day, maybe a week.
Right.
It was terrible.
I remember that.
Straight Talk, which was John the Stutterer, political talk show. I find John, he's like just one of my top 10. He's just up there, Whack Packer. But then it was Eric the Midget, Eric the Actor's American Idol wrap-up show and America's Got Talent wrap-up show. And then the last was Riley Martin's The Riley Martin Show, which was on Sirius. It was the longest lasting show, and it won the vote by 40%. We had 189 voters, I believe, or 194 voters.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And there were no negative comments. It was just a bunch of sound bites from Riley Martin. I posted it on the Howard Stern subreddit, and that's what I mean. I'm going to try to be the change I want to see in the world, and hopefully we can find a common ground of things to laugh at, aside from the things to piss us off.
Right.
That has been your public service announcement. If this were a real emergency, these words would be followed by instructions.
Right.
Okay, go on.
There's no instructions.
I'm going with this.
Howard talked about his cats and how like the cats were shitting and stuff. I'm wondering that, on the CADcast, we learned that Shipwreck bought a cat toilet for his cats that is hooked up to the plumbing. And so like he doesn't have to actually clean cat litter anymore. And I'm surprised that.
About?
What's that?
Shitting. I'm talking about cat shitting. What am I talking about?
That's what he's talking about. Like how and there was a picture on Instagram about how of the streak of shit on the carpet that the cat made. But I'm surprised that Howard's never mentioned these fancy cat toilets that you can apparently buy that go into the plumbing and are just completely automated. Because I feel like if Shipwreck has one, certainly Howard could have like an entire, every room could have one.
Okay, so hold on. Okay, so not everybody, well, probably everybody who's listening to this listened to the Catcast. But let's imagine there's one or two people who didn't listen to the Catcast on Wednesday.
Right.
What is this toilet that Shipwreck has?
It's just some fancy thing. It's hooked up to like your phone, so you literally get push notifications when your cat goes to take a shit, and you don't have to clean anything. It just all gets flushed out right down your toilet line. It's like a separate fancy litter box that's got running water through it.
Do we got a price tag on that?
I did not get a price tag on that.
You gotta get a price tag on that shit.
I didn't want to embarrass.
Is it Moen?
It's probably
made by Moen, or is that like a Radio Shack type of motherfucker?
I didn't want to embarrass Shipwreck.
You gotta get the Moen faucets, man.
I don't think they make one. This is
man, you gotta get the sharper image litter box.
I did like when King of All Blacks called in and was ranking the COVID vaccines and was saying that Johnson & Johnson is the ghetto vaccine, and the Moderna one is the Bentley. Moderna. The Moderna is the Bentley of vaccines, and you don't want the ghetto Johnson & Johnson vaccine.
Yes, and in the same conversation, he's like, "You gotta wear a mask. You gotta wear a mask." Like he hasn't been on the same planet with us for the last year.
I know.
So yes, I don't know how it's a Bentley.
He's crazy.
Did it make him stronger? Did he lose weight?
I laughed though. I did laugh. I remembered his quote and I laughed. So that was a good contribution from King of All Blacks. A rare one.
A rare one, and I actually found his previous statements insightful. He was talking. Do you remember what he was talking about? He's called in to talk about Ronnie and why he believes that Ronnie isn't married to Stephanie yet, and he believes it's because Ronnie thinks, "Oh, I'm getting old." He's an old-fashioned kind of guy. He doesn't want to saddle her with the burden of discharging his massive estate of like plastic, toy cars,
right.
hot
car hoods
on the wall. All of those stripper golden passes, lifetime VIP tickets. He doesn't want her to be saddled with that, and that's why he's not marrying her. And he said that he thinks that's why the relationship is hypersexualized because it makes him so sad. That's where Howard cut him off. I was like, hypersexualized.
I missed that part. Okay.
How did King of All Blacks even learn to put those words together, except for trying to denigrate black people? Because if he was talking about black people, he would have put those words together.
Right.
He would call them super predators or hypersexualized.
Right.
But he's talking about Ronnie, and it makes him sad in a way. I'm thinking, did he like put this in like MedMD?
No, you know what I think it is for real? No joke at all. I think last week they had a caller who called in, and it was like a caretaker taking care of an Army veteran. And the Army veteran had some sort of brain damage or some sort of mental issue from serving.
From an IED, he got blown up and he had post-traumatic stress disorder, no short-term memory.
And he became hypersexual with his caretaker, and they're like banging 5 times a day or 6 times a day. And maybe King of All Black, that like interest him somehow. He's like, hey, how can I get my wife to be hypersexual? Maybe if I knock her on the head or something, I could be having sex 5 times a day. And so he's probably
that anymore. Nah, I don't do that anymore.
That's not bad. So he's probably Googled it to figure out how he could like induce that state to his wife, and put 2 and 2 together and did some analysis on Ronnie. And it was actually kind of insightful. But didn't he also say somebody called in? Maybe it wasn't him. Somebody called in and said, I don't think Ronnie's getting married because he's just gonna figure he's gonna die soon, and maybe just he can die before the wedding. And then not have to plan anything. That might have been somebody else.
It was a mix. King took off for that statement. I think it was someone. I think it might have been Apple's trying to say something of interest.
Yeah, because Apple's called in right after and tried. It's a good bit to have Ronnie stir up shit. Get Apple's stirring up shit with Ronnie because, and you can hear this time Ronnie tried to like maintain a little bit more self-control and not just immediately start yelling, but he can't really hold it together for all that long.
He needs more techniques. He needs more techniques to handle the wave of emotion that he experiences.
Yes, he's not fully equipped.
So what's your fourth item, please?
My fourth item is Arsenio Hall was interviewed.
Very entertaining interview, huh?
It was actually one of the best interviews in a long time. Arsenio had a lot to say. I think we learned. I think part of the interest comes from Arsenio's friendship with Eddie Murphy, and because Eddie Murphy is basically a recluse at this point. I mean, he's come out now because he's promoting a movie, but before that, we haven't really heard much from Eddie.
For years, he's just the kind of he's gone from the stand-up to the actor, kind of producer director who likes to be in the spotlight only to promote and then go back and live a normal life. And Howard's always been complaining about that. He's always wanted to get an avenue or window into Eddie Murphy's head. And
this unfortunately for Howard seems to be the only way, because I guess Eddie ain't coming over to promote the movie. He did other promotion, but he wasn't. He's like, Arsenio, you do it.
He did Ellen.
Right. I'm sure he did promotion elsewhere, and that must really hurt Howard. I'm sure Howard would love to have an hour or two with Eddie Murphy.
Oh, yeah, especially being the comedic haven, the true Shangri-La.
Definitely. Don't you
American
think
comedy.
top 5 most wanted guests for Howard is Eddie Murphy? Top 5?
Ooh, okay.
Gotta
be. 5, yeah.
Gotta be.
Say. Who do you think is like number 1 that he hasn't had that he wants to get?
Well, John Lennon would be there.
Alive.
That I don't know. It's always a lot of rock guys. It's a lot of rock guys.
Oh yeah, maybe a rock god or something. Yeah, like Rolling Stones, Mick Jagger.
Mick Jagger's on the list for sure.
Yeah,
he's mentioned that recently, actually, specifically Mick Jagger. Right. So Arsenio, yeah, it was a lot of great topics for Arsenio, including. I mean, I actually missed. They must have talked about Howard and Arsenio's feud that they had. When I caught like part of the conversation there, because they were talking about Howard getting thrown off of Arsenio's show, his talk show.
Yeah, they walked out of the building, not just thrown off, like they escorted him out of the building.
Correct. And
do you remember why?
I don't. Was he made fun of? Why. He made fun of magic. Maybe he made fun of. He was. I don't know.
Why, but it was like when I think it was like in the beginning of his appearance. And on the show, and then he just like immediately did something offensive, and they took him off. I don't remember because I never watched how Arsenio Hall.
Really,
all I remembered really was the
right. You know, right. I watched Arsenio, but I think I remember Howard getting kicked off of I think Jay Leno because of the lesbians, or at least Jay Leno cut to commercial because of the lesbians.
Cut to commercial, I think. Yeah.
I can't remember what Arsenio was, but. They did Howard was really rough on Arsenio. I mean, I remember.
He really was.
He was really rough on everybody back then. But I listened to some old audio of Howard talking about Arsenio, and it was certainly something that Howard would not want to be played today, and he would be embarrassed by it.
I don't think Marcy would let it go on air.
I don't think you're hearing that in Stern Dollar. He called him boy. Let's put it that way.
Well, yeah, Howard was just an enraged man. And at the end of the interview, Arsenio said, can we just, before we end this? And he brought it up, and can you just let your listeners know that I did not do all of these horrible things you said I did to you?
I never beat you. Security never beat you up.
They never roughed you up.
That's the part I heard.
It's just funny to hear this 100 millionaire say, yes, but I was escorted out of the building, and
it wasn't your fault. It wasn't your fault. I was out of my mind. And he was. I mean, he's clearly, he's still out of his mind, but less today, I would say, is a fair statement.
But also, you could just see the shame and embarrassment in his face, man. It was just, you do have to think about some of the results of your actions, man, because
yep.
You just get kicked out of a building, escorted from a building.
It was good press for him, though. It was probably worth it, like as far as he's concerned.
True.
Except for the embarrassment, and you have to be able to handle stuff like that. But you got to be strong. Anyway, that was a great. I feel like Arsenio was one of the best interviews in a while, and we learned a lot.
Yeah, that was a good one.
And I'm watching that movie.
Definitely worth going back to listen to. I was going to say, go ahead.
I'm going to watch his movie this weekend.
Oh yeah,
Coming to
especially
America.
after Dolomite. Dolomite was fantastic. I don't know if you saw that.
I did not.
No, dude. I think you laugh. It's definitely not. Ty can't watch it, but it's definitely. It's. I think it's hilarious.
Okay, I might check that out. But my question is, do I watch Coming to America 2 or Coming to America with my son? And if the answer is yes, do we watch the first one first together?
I think you got to check out Dolomite and see if it aligns with your filters. I don't know.
No, I'm talking about Coming to America right now. Yeah, Coming to America.
Coming to America. I mean, I think you should show him the first one anyway.
He can handle it. He's 13. The royal penis is clean, Your Highness.
I have no idea. You got to make that choice, man. I don't know.
I think he can handle it.
My parents showed me RoboCop. I don't know. I must have been 10. I remember the guy melting in the acid scarred me for my life.
Yeah.
Or like arachnophobia. I remember I was scared of. I'm still scared of spiders. You know what I mean? Especially when they're crawling out of that guy's mouth. It just freaked me out. It stuck with me. So I don't know. I mean, I've seen too much.
I hear you. All right, let's talk about Wednesday's show.
Hey now.
He started the show off talking about how Texas's governor is allowing the state to go mask free and complaining about that, which is like, yeah, we're getting a little ahead of ourselves, everybody. Let's get a few more vaccines in us before we start taking our masks off. I mean, is it that fucking bad to like, you can have the businesses open and wear masks. It really is fine for the most part. Like, I go to the gym, everybody wears a mask. It's fine. Is it the most comfortable thing? No. Would I rather not wear a mask? Yes. But would I rather go to the gym and wear a mask and know I'm not pretty much not going to get sick? Yes. It makes a lot more sense.
Yeah. I don't understand the dual thought about it. I mean, because you try to impress upon people, you know, if you don't like masks, you're really going to hate a ventilator. Like, you really will hate being intubated.
Yeah.
You really will hate being tied to a bed so you don't rip it out of your body when you're knocked out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's like, you wish people could embrace that. And having that nurse call in, who's a nurse.
Yep.
A nurse. And still have that wall of ignorance that she's like so dead set to reinforce, to go against her medical training. And the job she does in the COVID ward, to think it's not real. It's just weird. We're in a weird time, man.
Everything is weird.
It's dangerous to be a dog walker nowadays. You got to wear a mask to the gym.
It's rough. Howard then started talking about Seth Rogen's new weed business, which
right.
I follow Seth Rogen on Twitter, so I had actually known about it and looked into it ahead of time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm expecting to hear Seth on the show in the near future while he promotes it.
Advertise there, yeah,
for free. And yeah,
make it a bid. Get JD high again.
Well, JD doesn't live in a legal state, so I don't think they're gonna.
It's not legal in New York.
He's not. I don't think he's in New York anymore.
Oh, okay.
But he's in New Jersey. Maybe he's in New Jersey now, but it's legal in New Jersey.
They said that actually. I remember them talking about that being in a house now, or closer to a suburb or something.
But the problem is Seth's weed is not legal there. I don't think there's any legal. The laws are so ridiculous. But anyway, it's I'm happy for Seth. I'm a big fan of his ceramic work, and I'm sure his weed is excellent. And I would also like his weed. Thank you. I would and I would also like to have my own weed company. Thank you.
Hey now.
Thank you.
Cheap ass weed.
That's probably not good branding. I'm thinking that's nobody's like, oh yeah, I got that cheap ass weed. You want to hook up?
Check us out, yo. We got sticks and stems.
Right. I mean, you want to like. It's cool with the celebrity weed. It's like, oh, Seth Rogen, you can smoke the same weed that Seth Rogen smokes, or Snoop Dogg. That there's an allure to that. I don't think like there's an allure to saying, hey, I got this cheap ass. Because I was thinking too, like with cheap ass gamer, like could I make like game accessories? But like, do people really want to buy stuff like
split holders on your remote, like a spliff holder?
Well, I thought about that also. I thought about that too. But I'm just talking straight up controllers. Like, would anybody really buy a cheap ass controller like that's branded as such? It doesn't sound like a good fit.
Vaporizer into the
You're giving away all my ideas. You're giving away my ideas.
The vape pen.
You're just giving away all my ideas. Just giving away all my ideas.
The weed causes male pattern baldness.
That's nope. These are all horrible ideas. It's like why don't you just burn the money or open up a ping pong business?
Dude, this weed is so great. When you smoke it, you become lanky and uncoordinated.
And right, awesome. Hey, wait a minute. Now you're just making fun of me. This isn't even. Now you're just straight up making fun of me.
It's a bit. It's a bit.
It's a bit. I'm feeling like Baba Booey now.
Dude, that's Baba Booey.
That's Fafa Booey. We talked about. Howard was talking about. They started talking about television streaming services and how there's just too many of them, and Peacock. And I was thinking, like,
so?
I think so. I'm not like signing up for anymore. Like whatever I have now is what I'm sticking with. I'm just no more. And I'm certainly not signing up for Peacock. Certainly, like they just said, like, oh, we're gonna make a streaming service and it has cock in the name and it's gonna be fine. Like out of all the names,
I
like,
need some cock market share. Get out there.
It's just like
get me some Peacock.
Does nobody else just hear cock when you hear Peacock? That's all I hear is cock.
I'm sure Jackie does.
But anyway, I'm not signing up for any of those. And yeah, I just like if it's not on Netflix or Hulu, okay. The problem is you laugh so much anyway. To do a fake laugh like Jackie is just redundant, I feel.
I'm sorry. Some of this shit is so stupid. I can't relate.
Peacock? You're not signing up for Peacock?
I love it. This is killer shit.
All right, let's move on. They started talking about. They started playing Ronnie's horrible prank, his second prank phone call, which was what was the second prank phone call? There was the bed one.
The bed one was. I thought that was the second one. That was the first one.
No, there was the petcock call.
The petcock, and the guy just didn't go with the pet. He said your cock is messed up. Or no, he called it a pettycock or something.
Whatever. It was just
which immediately took the funny out of it because he was just right. The pettycock. It's on this part. Not funny. And then Ronnie just doesn't. I think he needs to be pranked. Like they need to call listeners and ask them to call and prank Ronnie.
They did that already. They literally did that already. They had apples. They conference called apples into his house. So that's the closest they're gonna ever come to doing that. And it
gave him a stroke.
It almost gave him a stroke, and it was a pretty great prank.
My goodness, but that would be the only way to make Ronnie funny in that sense. That's the way to make him funny in that sense. Have him be pranked by other people because he just doesn't. It's not working. Or they could chop up his voice like they did with the XLR and the Camaro. That stuck with me for 15 years. I still laugh.
Yeah, but he had nothing to do with that. That was just people using his audio. He has no comedic mind whatsoever. He does not know what constitutes a joke. That is the problem. That is
TOP.
Yeah, and that's
LESS. Any problem with that?
That is hilarious because somebody else used the audio in a funny way.
No, she sounds uptight. No, she'll do it. You'll do it when you get here.
She'll do it
when you get here. You'll do it.
All right. Then they were talking about John Hine. Who is going to do better in Stump the Buoy? I guess they're going to have John Hine versus Gary.
Hit him with the Hine.
And I guess, is it only rock trivia? Or I didn't quite follow if Stump the Buoy is only rock trivia or is it general?
The Buoy.
No, it's Stump the Buoy. I believe is the proper way. I can't stump it.
You can't stump the Buoy. I think it's just music. It's music history shit. Like what song, who did this song. It's a couple of seconds of a song, and then he's got to it's like half a second of a song. You got to name the song.
I'm very good at that stuff. Like if it's only 80s songs, but I'm probably not on Gary's level. Like I'm on that. There's an Amazon Echo
nobody
game,
beats Gary,
and that I'm very good at. But I don't think I'm beating Gary.
Can you do that with like video games? Can you get like 10 seconds of the intro and know which game it is?
Not really, because they all, especially like the beeps and bloops, they all sort of blend together, and it was a long time ago for me, so I cannot really remember. Some of them I can. It depends.
Oh, that's so cool. Well, Gary, I mean, my favorite wasn't was it Stump the Buoy? It was either Stump the Buoy or Win Gary's Money. No, Stump the Buoy with what's his name, Hank the Angry Dwarf, and they were neck and neck, and I think Hank might have won that one. Do you remember?
Hank won. I believe Hank won that one.
Yeah. So that's the only time I've ever seen Gary lose.
Right.
To Stump the Buoy over the years. John Hine is Gary knows the shitty songs that he doesn't like, and he still listens to them.
Right. That's a good point.
As long as there's a 45.
that is right. They had, I guess, one of the more interesting parts of Tuesday's show was Mehmet and Mary talking about their naked neighbors.
Yeah. I wanted to. Yeah. Go ahead.
Did you now? There was some controversy about whether or not, like, I guess if Mehmet waited too long to tell his girlfriend that he saw a naked woman. Was that the controversy that they were talking about? I wasn't quite following.
So basically, excuse me, across the street from Mehmet, at his new place, wherever it is in New York, there's a woman who seems to be some type of exhibitionist. So when you live in a city, you'll find people who are exhibitionists or who just don't, frankly, give a damn because you're too far away. You might see them naked, but you'll never see them in real life.
That's me. That was me.
Their lives.
That was me.
Right, exactly. So there's two different types. Who knows what she is? Mehmet has a whole fantasy that he's built in around it. That was the controversy. She did this, and then he told her in the beginning, but then that she was posing. He thinks that she does porn or something or OnlyFans.
Okay.
The part that he didn't tell her about right away was that when she got naked, he had a delay from watching it to informing her, which made it look suspicious. That was where the controversy came from. It obviously isn't resolved because Mehmet didn't want to talk about it. And it sounds like they're going to have an argument about it. To me, I don't know if you've had this relationship in your past or have known a couple like this in your past. They just look like a bunch of very young people who don't trust themselves and therefore can't trust each other. Because if all the married people you heard talking about this, they're like, yeah, my wife would probably be happy that I got to see a naked woman and I left her alone for a little bit longer.
Right. Or that they would want to check her out too, just to see what's going on.
Exactly. And the single people who are like, wow, if that naked woman was here, I don't know what I would do. Whereas, consequences, you have long enough period with this person to know it's not worth blowing your life up for.
Yep.
He is like, I don't know. She's all wound up about he's waiting for her to come back. It's like, I don't know. It seemed a little bit much ado about nothing. And I'm with Rasan on the wrap-up show. They were talking about it. And Rasan, I think, he's good at articulating both perspectives or bridging a gap in a way. But his snap response was like, why are we talking about this? They obviously have problems in their relationship if this is like a persistent issue.
He was very funny, actually. I was listening in the car and I was laughing. He cracked me up a bunch.
Seriously. Well, what do you fall? I mean, what do you think? Is this a faux? It's not faux. Is it just bullshit? It's like not worth it.
I feel I mean I couldn't tell like if Mehmet's girlfriend was really upset or not, or it's just like a bit for the show. Because I know that my wife, I would tell her right away because I'd be like, oh, check this out.
It's interesting, yeah.
And I would also tell her like, I don't know, I would tell her.
That's what me and my wife do. Like when we're at a restaurant, we'll be like, hey, look at that girl's butt.
Right. Yeah, I do that. I would do that. I would certainly do that. But there may be something else that's going on there. Like I feel like Mehmet maybe rubbed one out to her and then didn't tell anyone because she's only visible from the room that they use for an office, and he closes the door, and that's like the private time. Like he doesn't get interrupted while he's in there.
Oh, okay. I missed this. You know what? The last time I had to check in with them was at the old apartment.
Yes,
and I
they
don't
moved.
remember any of this office etiquette. I think she was on the other side of the apartment or something.
Yeah, they moved somewhere. They never mentioned where.
You're right. So okay, so he closed the door when he's in there,
and he's not to be disturbed when he's in there with the door closed. And
he's Howard. He's Howard in the making.
Right, locking himself in the room, soon to be broken up.
Doesn't Matt actually? He looks at himself like he's a future Howard, doesn't he? He's got like an oversized super ego and an oversized
does he?
Ego.
I think so. It's hard to tell like what's a bit and what's not.
I think
but it could be
because he's genuinely weird like that. I think I think his girlfriend, I think she was being straight. I think they are in that weird of a place in their relationship. Because if you remember, I mean, we're probably going a little bit over on Mehmet, but I find him very interesting. I didn't even know he was part of the show until you told me a couple of years ago. I was like, who's this Mehmet guy? And you're like, oh, it's blah, blah, blah. And then I immediately forgot. But he is just very entertaining with how like emo he is and like how sensitive he is about nothing, about social media. And he doesn't understand, stop doing what hurts. Like, if it hurts when you look at this thing, stop doing it. And he can't get that.
Right. He wants, I guess, like he feels like if people are talking about him, then it's his duty to check in. See what they're
I
saying.
guess, you know, and then also to think that he's burdened with being the best looking on the show, or the secret most interesting, or the secret most creative. It's a burden
What a
to
burden.
lead from the bottom. But at the same time, they did start the relationship or move in right before the pandemic.
Yes.
And pandemic cohabitation with the horrors you see outside at some places, some cities, not everywhere, and some parts of some cities, not everywhere,
Right.
with a new relationship, at least a new phase of the relationship, might have been a little bit, might have been a lot.
Yeah. I would not want to be having my first experience moving in with my significant partner
Oh man,
and then have the pandemic hit.
with a building with rats and roaches.
Right. Well, no, they moved to a nicer building, I think.
But that was the first place they moved. That was the.
Oh,
I think
oh,
that's the first thing they moved into. I think
oh.
when they moved in together, so it was just hell from the beginning, you know. And
Yikes.
then he sees like a naked chick across the way. Listen, I've been stuck at home for a year. If a chick starts like OnlyFansing across the street, I'm gonna look. Matter of fact, on my Instagram, I saw people working out in the parking lot. And I videotaped because they were like videotaping themselves, like
Oh,
to
okay.
put it on social media, and they were like shot it like so it looked nice against like a city brick wall.
Right.
But in reality, they're like in the parking lot where all of the Uber Eats drivers and delivery drivers go to urinate.
Awesome.
And they were right next to the gigantic dumpster, and I'm like, oh, this is so gross. And they're like on the ground with the weights, and they're like, you can...
Right. You can smell it. That's bad. All right. Let's I didn't listen to really any I didn't listen to the Tan Mom. Oh, I did. Well, Tan Mom called in, but like I don't know, they couldn't get the phone working or something. It was like
you know, that's where I think Tan Mom would be. When we were talking about not OnlyFans, the what's the thing, Patreon or whatever, Cameo or whatever the fuck thing is, where people call and say, "Hey, it's douchebag. I left you a message."
It's Cameo.
There you go. And I think she would be golden, but she needs like a handler. She just can't handle anything. And lockdown isn't conducive to people who are lost in their own home, you know?
Right.
She can't work anything. Anything. He's saying, hello, I can hear you. Can you hear me? Hello? Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Hi, it's Patricia.
And then, you know, it's just like, oh my goodness, Tam, I want to laugh at you on a deeper level, but you're restricting me to I can't answer the phone like a bad caller. That's annoying.
Right.
Like when she did the song, remember she came into the song. It's fun to be Patricia Marie, and she didn't know the words to the song.
Right, her song, her own song.
That was the best parts of the show, when she didn't know. So.
Right.
But it would have been a 10 times longer bit if she'd finished the shit song. You dig it?
Sure. You don't need to hear her finish the whole song anyway. You get the idea.
But it would have been a longer funny if she was able to actually perform the song, as opposed to just not even be able to do, just like the phone call. If she were able to actually just do the call in, the appearance, that would have been so much funnier.
Sure.
Not being able to answer the fucking phone.
Right. That's hard. It's hard work out there. So I think that's pretty much it for the week of shows. They teased Wikipedia for next week because they're going to be on vacation next week, and I guess that's a deep dive into the Whack Pack hosted by Howard. So I don't know. It is what it is. I guess I'll be listening to a lot less Howard next week.
Or a lot more of Sternthology, or what Howard Stern by the letters. Stern Show or Stern History by the letters.
I feel like they don't have that big of a pool to draw from, because I feel like I'm hearing all this stuff repeatedly on different occasions. Do you feel the same way? Like, I feel like I've just heard some of these things. Right. I don't know. I'm not sure if it's just my imagination, but I feel like they play a lot of the same classic stuff over.
I think they do, but I think we are not good samplers, because most people are just going to check in and out, listen a couple minutes, tune out, and not hear things repeated, probably because we listen too much, I think.
Right, that could be.
And I think they've done such a restricting of certain archives, or maybe they set up a playlist at the beginning of the month and it's just stuck. But some of the stuff is like, and it just keeps repeating and repeating and repeating and repeating. It's like, okay, YouTube, where are you? You know,
that's what I mean. I feel like there could be greater variety in the selections, because I feel like we've been hearing the same stuff over and over again. And there's years of stuff out there. And I know, of course, he doesn't want some of the stuff replayed because it's questionable content today.
Yes.
But certainly they could find clips. And I think they've been trying to do that, but I feel like we've reverted a little bit. Maybe because Rasan was on, it must be because Rasan was on paternal. That must be it. That's it.
There you go. And you can't reach out to them while they're on paternity leave either.
Because
you can't email them.
It got really good.
Right.
Like several months ago, I felt like we were getting new stuff in.
Right.
But then like the last 3 months or so, I feel like I've just been hearing the same stuff on repeat. But that's it. Rasan was on paternal leave and they didn't.
Right.
Maybe that's it.
And then there's like a chain of performances or a chain of interviews. It's just like a block and no historic stuff, not even to mix it up a little bit. And it's
right.
like, I'm just not going to, I just don't want to sit down and listen to a block of interviews. I mean,
right.
I think you're right. Rasan's back.
But he's back.
Welcome back, brother.
And he's actually like, I think he's really important to being on the wrap-up show. Like without him, the show was fine, but he's the only one that sort of mixes it up. And
he's not sucking asshole. He's like he doesn't just sit there and kiss ass and hope to not be the topic of the show tomorrow,
right?
Which is John Hine and Gary. They're just so browbeaten and so traumatized.
Yes, and he's young and he's younger too, so he brings a slightly different perspective, which is so it's nice. It's just like they need. I wish that he was on the. He probably doesn't want to be on the actual show that much. Maybe I feel like
you don't think so.
I don't know. I feel like you could make an effort, and I feel like he maybe doesn't want that. I don't know. I think.
Well, the feeling I get is some of the topics like are just he thinks are beneath discussion, where they are still part of the Stern universe, Stern show universe. So they need to be discussed. Like Brent getting kicked off of Twitch. Is he back on? By the way.
Yes, he is. It was only
welcome back, Brent. Let's see those pasties.
Right.
Don't forget, get the kiddie pool out on the balcony, and then the pasties and thong are in.
Right.
We're here for you, Brent.
It is true. Read the actual terms of service. Okay, we gotta go because I gotta take the kid to his activity. But I'll remind everybody to watch us live on Twitch on Fridays, 3 p.m. Eastern time at twitch.tv/GBassGamer. And if you're watching us here, you can subscribe to the audio version everywhere. Proper Modulation on whatever service you like. It's all.
And follow us on Twitter at ProperModPod. ProperModPod.
Awesome. All right, guys. We'll see you next time.
Peace.